This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am happy to be joined today by Dr. Pingnan Shi, or Dr. Ping, right, as we like to call him. He has a wonderful life story. He has a deep love of this country, and he has a ministry, and he has written really important books. Dr. Ping, start by telling us a little bit about your background.
Yes, I grew up during China's Cultural Revolution. I was born in 1963, and the Cultural Revolution started in 1966 and ended in 1976 when Mao died. So after he died, then the country, under the new leadership of Deng Xiaoping, China started to open its door. And so that's how I was able to go to Canada for my graduate study. And while I was in Canada, I was exposed to different materials and books and magazines, and I helped me to see the lie that the Chinese government has fabricated. And then in 1995, I came to United States, came to Indiana, and that's also helped me to see the contrast between Canada's socialism versus China, America's capitalism.
So you've had a lot of experiences, and so when you were living in China for those years, you were 13 years old by the time that Mao died. What kind of things did you see going on in China that are still bad memories for you?
Well, what is happening is under the current leadership, Xi, that he actually wants to be the Mao II, and he wants to go back to the planned economy and to have tight control over every aspect of China. So it's definitely, I guess, it's a kind of like a nightmare, and I start to see it's right now happening in China.
So you've been here for a while now yourself, and I've had the pleasure of meeting you in Indiana. You are, as I said, you have a ministry, you're an author, but you are very passionate about trying to stop this country from becoming much more like that country. Why do you think it is, Dr. Ping, that at this time in our culture, with all the horrible evidence of what happened under Mao, what's happening in China today in terms of the crackdown on Christianity, the crackdown on anybody who deviates in any way from the Communist Party platform. Why in this country today do you see us moving faster and faster toward that system?
I was actually, I thought communism died on June 4th, 1989, when the Chinese government sent in tanks and soldiers to forcefully clear the square. But to my surprise, that I found that actually Marxism is very active on America's college campuses. Actually, there is a saying, I don't know who said that. It said that the only real Marxists are on America's campus. And what really kind of alerted me is when I learned that the state in Indiana actually hired a DEI director, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when I was doing and also a lot of school district. So I was kind of wondering, why do we need to have someone like that? Because that reminds me of the political officers when I was in school during the Cultural Revolution. And those people are there just trying to indoctrinate teachers and students, and also basically is to watch especially the teachers, to make sure they follow the party line. So that's kind of similar thing looks like that's what the DI officers are doing. So I did some research, and from there I actually traced the route all the way down to Marxism, and so that's about 2 years ago. And started then I was writing articles and giving talks, and also write a book called "A Spectre is Hunting America." It's really just to warn that American people about the danger of communism now in this country.
So when I was born in this country, I'm a white male, right? And so when I try to talk to audiences about the dangers of DEI and how this is really Marxism, warmed over socialism that we're getting here, the progressive educrats, they yawn and they say, well, you're part of the problem. You have all your white privilege. Here's what I want to ask you. You came out of one of the worst collective periods in human history. I mean, what the Maoists did. I mean, to this day, we know that Mao is the greatest murderer of human beings in the history of the world. Right. And so, when you, who experienced that with your own eyes, when you try to talk to these progressives, how do they treat you?
Actually, I don't have that many progressive friends. I used to have some, but they somehow we just it's very hard to communicate, and they basically just say, oh, it's not there. It doesn't really. So basically, I'm just, how to say, is blow things out of proportion. They just don't believe me. I don't have many, but have just a couple. They just don't see it. Even though I gave them evidences, I have write articles and books, they just don't want to see the truth.
I think you said something really powerful, and that's true for Native audiences as well. They just don't want to see the truth. Many of them, if they knew the truth, wouldn't like it. Others would, but even the ones who, it's almost like there's a fear out there that if we acknowledge it, we're going to have to do something about it. And this seems to be exactly how communism grows in places like China. People start by not taking it seriously, then they think they're only going to go so far, and then by the time they realize how horrible it is, it's too late to change.
Right. Well, if you look at the history, since more than 100 years ago, how the Marxism and communism can spread in Europe, then later on to Asia, is that people don't take them seriously. They don't think them as bad as they are. They don't realize that they're because basically they are atheists, and so they don't have a moral, in a way, moral code or. So to them, they think that as long as they can achieve the end, they can take whatever means is possible. So it's always kind of, if you look at history, that people kind of always underestimate the evilness of Marxism and communism.
So your journey from communist China to Canada and then to America is one part of the story, but there's another story here. Your movement, your journey to Christianity. I know in talking to you that you are a very, very dear lover of God, and you are an inspiration to a lot of people because of your faith, and your books deal with this as well. How did you make that journey? How did you find Christianity, and what was your story there?
Yeah, it's actually like when I was growing up, basically I was trained as future communists, and both of my parents were communists. So we are taught that there is no God, and religions just basically, as Karl Marx said, is the opium for the masses. So that I believe that. But when I went to Canada for my graduate studies, my field is electrical engineering, and that's where I started to see that atheism has its philosophical problems, Because as scientists, if we want to do science, we have to assume there is order. There are natural laws that things are kind of obeying, like Newton's like laws and all that. So if we assume there's order, then they must have someone made that, some kind of intelligence made that. So and if there is no, so basically we see the design, especially as an engineer, I see the design, just everything like our human, just look at the humans, how we act, we can think, we can see, and even just some tiny insects, like flies, they can fly, and their eye structure are very complex. So you see the designs all over the world. So if that's there is a design, there must be a designer. So atheism doesn't really answer that question. So when I was doing my basically, especially when I was doing my PhD studies, that's where I kind of switched from atheism to I would say theism. It's like there is an intelligence, there's a design, but not necessarily Christ or the Christian God. And that was after June 4th, 1989. And before that, I thought that we can, as long as we have democracy, as we have science, China will become better, or become like America. But that after that, and also for maybe a couple of years, I was involved in the democratic movement, kind of in Canada, and among the Chinese intellects and scholars. But I see that without ethics system, then it's impossible to have democracy. So from that, then we are invited. My wife and I were invited to a Bible study group. So we were there for like 5 years. So we asked all kinds of questions and really thought about very seriously. And to the end, my wife and I made the decision to become a Christian, because that's really makes sense, just from the scientific point of view, from the logic. But that was how we become Christian. But to really have a personal relationship with God, that was a couple of years later, and especially when I went through some difficult times. Like I struggled since teenager years with depression. Actually, it's bipolar, and I had some bad episodes, and that's where I actually had the encounter with God and build a personal relationship.
No, so it's a remarkable story. It reminds me a lot of the story of C.S. Lewis, right? Who, well, born in the Free West, came to doubt and realized there had to be order, and then finally made his way to God, and then finally to Christianity, and a very similar story. And so, in the time that we have, go ahead.
His book, C.S. Lewis' book, Mere Christianity, definitely is a huge influence on me.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can tell. So in the time that we have left, talk about your ministry. What do you want to accomplish? Talk a little bit about the books and how people can reach you and reach your information, and how can they buy your books?
Yeah, right. My book is collection of articles I wrote, is really just to warn Americans that communism, Marxism is here. Is really the communist has basically completed the so-called long march through institutions. They pretty much have tight control, pretty much all the cultural institutions in America. So we need to face it, and we need to fight it. And second of all, so that you can buy on the Amazon. And another ministry I'm doing is to warn people about the danger of public education, and also actually I'm writing on 2 more books. One is on the titled "What's Wrong with America's Education," and the second one is I call Education 4.0, which saying, look, basically just give some ideas about what is the proper education, especially as Christians. How should I educate our parents? Oh, sorry, our children's. And the one thing we need to recognize as Christians, that if we send our kids to public schools, basically they're going to be exposed to communism, to Marxism, and they will be turned against us. And another thing is that as Christian parents, we need to realize that when the teachers went through their education in colleges, they embraced this idea of social justice, and so their goal, instead of academics, that's more focused on how to basically change the country as we know it.
Yes, and having read your books, I really recommend them to everybody. Not only are they full of information, but they're very uplifting, they're spiritual. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that you continue to do, sir. And so we'll have you back on the show, and we'll talk about each of those books on their own. So I just wanted to introduce you to our audiences. This is Dr. Ping, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be hearing more from him. And thank you for your time today, sir.
Well, thank you.
And that's good. Yes, sir. And that's going to wrap up this show. If you have any questions, comments, or want to support the show, simply visit drdukeshow.com. For all of us at the Dr. Duke Show, always glad to talk to another doctor, Dr. Ping. We'll see you next time, folks.